Hi everyone, it's Sarah from sarahsbites.com. Today I'm showing you how to make this delicious and moist cranberry orange loaf. It is so good, and if you keep a stash of frozen cranberries all year long, you can make this recipe at any time. So let's get started. We'll start off by preparing the cranberries. You're going to need about 2.5 cups of whole cranberries, and then this is completely optional, but what I like to do is just grab a handful of those and chop them up. So you're going to have whole cranberries inside the batter as well as chopped up cranberries, and you can also do frozen ones, but what I did was just pull out the bag of frozen cranberries the night before and thawed those out. So we are putting fresh cranberries into this recipe, and you can also go with dried. My opinion, I don't like to do it because it's not the same taste. Fresh cranberries just taste so much better, but if dried is all you have, go ahead and do that. And then we're going to lightly coat the cranberries with about 1/2 tablespoon of flour. Next up, grab a large mixing bowl, and to that add in 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour with 2 teaspoons of baking powder and 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and just gently mix that up a little bit just to combine them. And then we're going to set that aside and start on the batter. We're going to cream together 1/2 cup of unsalted butter at room temperature with 1 1/4 cups of granulated sugar, and mix these for a couple of minutes. We're then going to add 2 eggs that are room temperature, as well as 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. And you're going to mix this again for another 30 seconds or so. And now we're going to zest and juice 1 whole large orange. I had 2 smaller oranges, so that's what I ended up using. So use all of that zest, as well as you should end up with about 1/4 cup of orange juice. And if you don't have fresh oranges, feel free to use store-bought orange juice, but I think the zest from the orange is what really adds on to the flavor of this cranberry loaf. We'll also add in 1 cup of whole milk that is room temperature and start to mix that for another 15 to 20 seconds. If you're enjoying watching this recipe video, please give me a thumbs up below and consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget to hit that bell notification button so that you are reminded every time we post a new recipe. We'll add in our dry ingredients in a couple batches, and just make sure you don't overmix here. That's why I grabbed a whisk, because with the mixer, I just kind of tend to go at it and overmix the batter, and that causes for more of a tough loaf, and you want a fluffy, moist loaf. So just don't overmix at this point. And last but not least, we're going to add in our cranberries and gently fold those into the batter. When preparing your loaf pan, what you can do is put some butter on it or even oil, and then sprinkle a little flour to prevent sticking. In my opinion, it is so much easier to use parchment paper, so just put some parchment paper on the bottom. It's okay if it wrinkles or comes up a little, because as we add this batter on top, it'll flatten out. So it is so much easier to pull that loaf out later to cool off with the parchment paper, rather than having to go around with a knife and try to get the loaf out without breaking it. So whatever method you like, just go with that, but I prefer the parchment paper. And lastly, I just like to even out the top a little bit, and we're gonna bake this in a 350-degree oven for about 60 to 70 minutes. So just use a toothpick to keep an eye on this. If it comes out with batter on it, of course, put it back in the oven. You never really know, because everyone's oven is a little bit different. It also depends on the weather and where you live and all that stuff. So I think the toothpick is gonna be your best friend to making sure this loaf is done. And this is a pretty tall cranberry loaf, so it will take a little bit longer to bake. And I usually let my loaf cool off for at least half an hour before cutting into it. And keep in mind, you guys can have this out on the countertop. It doesn't have to be refrigerated for up to 5 days, and you can even freeze them. So I hope you enjoy this recipe. Please let me know in the comments below if you give it a try and what you think. And I will see you guys next week with another recipe video. Happy holidays!